Hey everybody, sorry I don't have an untitled review show this week. The fatigue, the brain fog caught up with me again, and I guess while I'm at it, I'll give you a little bit of a health update here real fast. I did see an expert about what's going on and why the fatigue and brain fog is still with me almost a year after getting shingles now, and the assumption is, because we did all these tests and they all came back negative, they're all fine, is that I probably got COVID, was asymptomatic, and that's probably what gave me shingles about a year ago, because I guess they are seeing connections that COVID can activate that, especially because I'm a younger person to get shingles. And the theory is that it left me with either long COVID or a mutation of long COVID and the shingles fatigue and brain fog that usually follows after it. So there's no clear sign when it's going to go away. There's really nothing they can do, especially with long COVID, because it's a newer disease and, they don't know a ton about it yet. And they said pretty much the only way to test for it is to test everything else, and if it's not all those things, it's probably this. So I don't want to go through a ton of tests. I just went through the ones, like the obvious ones that would be really bad and that doctors can do something about, and they're like, yeah, they're all negative, you're healthy and everything. So I'm just gonna have to wait it out, and it's gonna take a little bit of time. I'm sure it is getting better. As I always say, it is getting better, but it will pop up still and knock me out for, could be an hour, could be half a day, but it's not a whole day anymore, it's not a whole week anymore. That's good, but this week, it did get in the way, but I still wanted to give you my thoughts on Furiosa here, because I was invited to an early screening. I definitely want to give my thoughts about it, and thankfully it'll be a quick review, because it's pretty straightforward. It's a good movie. If you like the Mad Max universe, if you liked the world, or the style, I should say, of Fury Road, the last one, this is very much in that vein visually. In terms of storytelling, it's a little closer to, I say, the first Mad Max, where Fury Road was very much a very long chase. I think that was kind of the challenge of the movie, is can we just tell a story that's basically one long chase? This one's a little bit more return to formula with it, where it's telling the story of one person, pretty much the observer of this crazy, crazy world, and kind of like the previous Mad Max movie, you forget the main character is in it sometimes, and I think that is intentional. I think, like Max, Furiosa is definitely supposed to be the observer of this strange world. The movie definitely gets lost in its apocalyptic future and these crazy, weird characters that I love. I love being in this world. I love seeing the cool designs and everything. But with that said, there is still not only a story following this character, but it's a story that spans years, over this lifetime. If I'm right, I don't think I've seen a Mad Max movie that's really done that before, where they'll definitely follow the character for a couple days or a couple weeks or something like that, but I haven't seen one that spans over a year. So that's something that's a little new to it. The film itself doesn't have a ton that's new. Again, it's just kind of combining stuff that we've seen in the other Mad Max movies, but haven't been combined in this way. And what's interesting about the style this time around is, at first I was a little distracted by the fact that the CG backgrounds were a little bit more fake, or at the very least the keying was a little fake. And at first I found that a little distracting, but then the more I watched it, particularly the style of it, it had a little bit more of an exploitation film vibe to it, kind of like the first film was. If you compare the first film to the later films, they're very, very different, at least in style. And the reason I think that is because there's also shots, and maybe they did this in Fury Road, I can't remember, where they'll have maybe somebody driving or something like that, or an action sequence, and maybe the camera will track in a little bit, but then they'll use like a digital zoom to go in on the camera. I don't even think it's a zoom on the camera. What that means is that if you're going to track in on something, you move the camera closer to something. If you're going to just zoom in, the camera stays still and you zoom it in. And then digital zoom is you don't do anything with the camera, just on computer, you bring the image closer. There's a lot of that in this film, and I'm 99% sure it's intentional, and I think it does give it a little bit more of an exploitation film vibe, and I like that. It took a little getting used to, but I do like it. The action is still great. Again, not quite as consistent as Fury Road, because it's not just one long chase scene, but still pretty great. The acting, especially from Chris Hemsworth, he's just having a ball in this movie. I mean, he just went all out and created this very strange original character from scratch. It's really not like anything I've seen him do before, and it's very over the top, very silly, very funny, and very threatening too. He's kind of like, I don't know, pompous Gaston, maybe? You know, he has this voice going on a lot of the time. I'm not even kidding. He really does this voice a lot of the time, and it works for me. I can see some people maybe being distracted by the fact that he's doing this voice, but I just thought it was really entertaining, and he just threw himself into the role. The only thing I didn't like about is that they give him this fake prosthetic nose, and it looks bad. It's really distracting. They might have given him fake teeth too. I'm not sure. He definitely does this a lot, you know, kind of thing. So maybe they gave him fake teeth, but that didn't bother me too much. But because I saw it on IMAX, I could see sometimes in the close-ups, like, where, like, the fake nose would stop and the real nose would begin, you know, like where they use the little spear gum to connect it and everything. And it was just super, super distracting, and it's not needed. I think his performance is enough to really transform it into a totally different character, because everything else about him just looks like typical Chris Hemsworth. Like, the beard's a little longer, maybe a lot longer than what we're used to, but really the performance is what sells it. Anya Taylor-Joy is good as Furiosa. It was very easy to buy her in the role. The one issue I have with her character, though, I actually didn't mind too much that, again, you forget sometimes she's in the movie, because, again, I feel like that's part of the world and part of just the identity of the world, is that you can literally get lost in it to a point where you kind of forget the main character's even there. But the thing that did throw me off is that she talks very little in the film, which is fine, but she talks so little. And then when she does speak, she does her speaking roles very well, and, you know, she's legit intimidating and everything, but I'm thinking to myself, man, she talks so little in this that when she does, it's almost distracting. I would have preferred either they do have her talk throughout most of the movie. I mean, she doesn't have to give like these big speeches or anything, but, you know, make her a little bit more verbal, or don't make her talk at all until, like, maybe she gets her revenge or something like that, like she makes a vow to herself or something, because you read the character differently. I mean, she is so expressive. I mean, that's something that's just always great about her. She has these very expressive eyes, you know, it's very, these great expressions all the time, and I'm feeling like, man, if they want to just ride that out throughout the whole movie, that might have worked even better, because there is so much visual storytelling in Mad Max, particularly the last one, Fury Road, just threw so much at you, like so much story just in the visuals and what people were wearing and how they held themselves and how the environments were in the different places that they go. And that is here, but there's more dialogue in it than, at least probably more than Fury Road. And again, I get making her mostly quiet, but I feel like you could have just really just gone all the way with it. Like, maybe she decided not to talk until she finally got her vengeance or something like that. So it definitely has the harshness as well. This is a very mean, tough, gritty movie. There was a part of me that kind of thought, well, okay, it's technically not a Mad Max movie. It's a Mad Max Saga. It's in the Mad Max world. So I thought, are they going to do something different? Are they going to do something lighter with it? And they really don't. They go really, really aggressive and really, really silly. It's super over the top. I won't give it away, but the way she loses her arm is so ridiculous. And with that said, there are moments where characters definitely make bonehead moves. Again, I feel like that's kind of in all the Mad Max movies as well. There are, in that moment where she loses her arm, I'm asking, wait, not only how did that happen, but how did nobody see that happen in this? There's a few moments like that. But again, I think the idea is to get lost in the action, in the world, in the environment, in these weird, crazy characters that some either do too much talking or no talking whatsoever, and again, just let, you know, the attitude and, you know, the way they react to everything do all the talking. It's not quite as good as Fury Road. Fury Road's still my favorite, and I have the unpopular opinion that the Mad Max movies only got better and better as they kept going. I had a feeling this wasn't going to be better than Fury Road. I think the fact that it was a spin-off film, it didn't want to keep the Mad Max story going. I was kind of going like, okay, well, that gives them permission to experiment a little bit more, and surprisingly, they don't experiment as much as I thought they would. But for me, that's not a big deal because I love this world. I was kind of the same way with the second Sin City movie. Everybody loved the first one and then didn't get into the second one. And I just love that world so much that if they just give me more of the same, I'm very okay with that. So I really like the second Sin City, and I really like this. I think everything is giving you pretty much what you want to see out of a movie like this. It's a good IMAX movie. I did see it on IMAX. I actually had an earlier screening I could go to, but it wasn't on IMAX. I'm like, no, I'm seeing it on the biggest screen I can. It's worth it. The only downside is, like I said, you see the little makeup on Chris Hemsworth's his nose. That doesn't always look great. But they definitely lean more into the idea also that this is, that there's legends in this world, that the continuity in these movies isn't always straightforward, and that's intentional. Again, there's sort of different stories told about these characters, and even the ending, without going into spoilers, it does play up the legend element. It's a little bit choose your own ending, and I like that. I think that works in this environment, in this world that does have so much lore and, different types of lore and different stories being told. So all of that is great. I think the one thing that probably holds me back from absolutely loving it, because like I said, I do love this world, is that, like I said, there could have been a little bit more, I don't want to say chances taken, but they could have, especially with a different character, a character that's not Mad Max, they could have done a few more different things. I wanted to see a little bit more new from it, because if you are going to tell a story like this, why not just do it with Mad Max? Why not just go more into his origin or something like that? Not at all to say I don't, that I enjoy Furiosa. I like both Charlize Theron and Anya Taylor-Joy's take on the characters, but I would have liked if they experimented just a little bit more with it. But yeah, again, even just giving us a Mad Max style movie that, is very similar to the ones we've seen before, or even just combining ones we've seen before, like I said, with Fury Road and the original. I'm very okay with that. I feel like people that like these movies and like this world will get into this one. I don't know if it's going to be anyone's favorite, but I think it'll still, for me, it's still pretty high up there. I'm one of the few that really liked Thunderdome. That was my favorite before Fury Road, honestly. So it's somewhere in between Fury Road and Thunderdome for me. I do like it more than Road Warrior. I do like it more than the original. But these movies definitely are the type of films where it's kind of pick your poison, because the original is much more low budget and gritty. I mean, there's not a desert wasteland or anything like that. But then as they go more and more onward, they get to more of the big budget and the deserts and stuff. Like, it looks more apocalyptic, but the first one has that low budget feel to it, and like I said, that exploitation vibe. So it's a little bit of choose your own poison, and I like this idea of combining sort of the different styles, or even the different legends, if you want. One of the things that they say in this movie, they always say they're looking for a land of abundance, and that's what this is. It's a film of abundance. I never really got bored watching it. It's a very long film. I never really got, tired of the length of the movie or anything, because there's always something amazing to look at. Even some of the replacement actors, like they got a different one to do Morton Joe. I think the original actor isn't with us anymore. And he looks exactly the same. I mean, we dressed up Rob, my brother, as the character. He looks just like the character. It's actually not hard to recreate how that character looks, but the voice is very different, and he still sounds great. And again, I like that. I like it wasn't an imitation. I like he was doing his own thing. I mean, they even replaced Max in the movies, and, they don't sound anything alike, but that's okay. I want them to give their own spin on the characters. And they really, really work. So it's definitely strange, it's definitely weird, it's definitely super violent and super aggressive and very, very mean-spirited. But I think it's what you're looking for in a Mad Max movie or a Mad Max spin-off, and I had a good time with it. I don't know where they're going to go after this, if they're going to do another Mad Max spin-off movie or another Mad Max film, I'm not sure. But anything George Miller wants to do in this world, I am for it 1,000,000%, because I just love coming back to this place and looking at all the different costumes and props and things going in the background and the foreground and the designs of every place. So it is just a feast for the eyes in that way, in that respect. I mean, just the world building in it is so much fun. I mean, I feel like you could just make a film just having someone literally walk through this world and nothing happens, and it would still be incredibly entertaining. That's like how rich and interesting the world is and the characters that you discover. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. What did you all think? Did you think that this is just in the same vein as the Mad Max movies and it's what you're looking for and you're so happy to return to this place? Or are you sick of these films and you do want something more original, or I should say new from this series? Or maybe you're like, Furiosa is not interesting enough. We want Mad Max. He's the, better one to focus on. Or you're somewhere in between where you're like, yeah, you know what? It's no masterpiece, but kind of gives me all the blood, guts, and glory that I'm looking for in a Mad Max film. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll see you next time. Take care.